we're talking about, maybe 17 to 20% per annum in years. That would have been regarded as a kind of one-off event historically, like something like 400,000 to one chance. It's been going on for 5 years, and if the media don't talk about it, they refuse to acknowledge it, and that refusal to acknowledge it kind of resonates as a kind of a phenomenon of itself. It's like, oh, they're saying nothing about it again, But in the homes and streets and roadways of Ireland and Britain and France and Germany,
you see this one? Yeah, we're listening. This Massachusetts psycho mother that killed those 2 sweet little kids. You see these fucking psychos, and they have kids, and I don't think they realize, just what goes into taking care of a child. I know, they had a puppy, so they know, right? Anyways. Yes, and it's so sad. These kids are just not loved. It's almost like they're just a burden on a lot of these nasty fucking pill-popping alcoholic psychos, and the children are in the way of their mingling, not being an at-home mom, Yeah, really sad, sick, disgusting, and disturbing. And then they go crazy, and you can always connect it. You see the fucking drugs and the SSRIs they're taking. Wine-drinking psychos. This one is in Massachusetts. I'll post it for you on X. It's from YouTube. Law and Crime Network. Or this one is, Law and Crime Network. Right, and then, again, the common denominators, and you try to show them these horrible cases of psychos. Kill their husbands, kill their wives, kill their kids. Right, and they never want to look at it. They just want to keep popping their pills and pushing it on the children. And it's so sad, the lives these kids lived. Just unloved, a burden, and then murdered by a fucking psycho. Prescribed their drugs that they want to claim help people. Yeah, it's pretty disturbing.
And like this happens, and I don't know, what he told his lawyer. I'm sure that
dying who ought not to be dying. Now, people have a certain sense of that. I do. I grew up in a small town, 2,000 people, so I had a very acute sense of death from an early age. From a child, from being a very small child, because you kind of know everybody to see in the town like that, and when somebody dies,
they were really stressed.
You almost always have a picture, or somebody will describe, and you say, oh yeah, okay, and you feel a certain sadness that person is gone, and you register that. So you kind of, as you grow up, you start to understand how death works. That there are certain peaks of the year that people die, and then a lull, a dip, and then it starts again in the autumn. But now people are aware that people are dying, and young people are dying. Like great sportsmen are dying on the sports field. Athletes. One died the other day in Ireland. A young lad, I think about 23. Like, I don't think that it's possible for people to swallow grief like that in the way they appear to be swallowing it and not questioning. But you see, the power of the
they say it's just a correlation, but that's all those studies can do. But what we can do as researchers is look at the biological plausibility. And there's hundreds of studies now looking at the biological plausibility.
They say it's just a correlation, right, or coincidence. But someone freaking gives a dirty look or swears, and we need to keep an eye on that dangerous person making threats. And they're making threats to you. Who's making threats to me? Yeah, they're making threats to you. Right, and they can make it look that way very easily. They do it to a lot of people. Yeah, when you go back, if you actually been seeing what we've been seeing and how they do this, and the work and time and effort they put in to being nasty maniacal, framing fucking nasty cunts and slugs, oh, you should be fucking pissed. Talk about deserving a bullet in the back of the head. Well, that's what the mob guys said. They said, if you go around falsely accusing a mob person of being a pedo, Not regular people, but mob people. Or mob people regular, too. I don't know, you tell me. Right, but if you accuse someone of being a pedo, whether or not they are actually a pedo, if you can't prove it in court and their buddies don't believe you, you're going to get a bullet in the back of the head. So, oh, that's what they say. I'm sure it's just what their friends say. They're probably sickened by it too. So then they say it, and then we can respond to it. And then maybe their friends will hear it and realize what a bunch of fucking stupid pieces of shit they are and grow the fuck up and help these kids being fucked and tortured by actually speaking the truth instead of trying to profit from it. Carry on.
There's over 17 distinct mechanisms.
Oh, I know, right? Insane. These people are fucking
cancer.
insane.
Hey, we have special guests. Nicholas Holscher is an epidemiologist and administrator at the McCullough Foundation who earned his master's in public health from the University of Michigan. He's a prolific researcher with over 25 publications, serving as lead author of significant studies regarding COVID-19 vaccine injuries, myocarditis, post-acute, I can't say that word. His work focuses on bringing complex scientific data with public understanding to advocate for medical freedom and evidence-based
and they yet to barely acknowledge it and keep pushing
Welcome
it
to the
out.
show, Nicholas. How are you?
I'm great.
It's
Thanks for
insane.
having me.
I appreciate you showing up. Now, I follow you on Twitter, and I saw that.
Are you in the private or public worlds? I know, and it seems like the ones in the little private world want to dictate what the public find. I know, it just doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even fucking make sense. Well, like I said, you're not people to them. We've been in the room with them, and when we explain how that's going to affect the public school systems, they shrug it off. Yeah, no, those aren't people to them. And you shouldn't, if you're dumb enough to put your kid in public school and use Western medicine, it's your own fault. That's what they say. So hopefully the proper authorities do what they're supposed to do to help these kids. We're doing all we can, and we've already been killed. We're dead mothers speaking to you from the great beyond. All we can do is hope and pray. Yeah, we're going to do a little bit of reading. And we're doing our full read, The Covenant and the Kingdom. Yes, you're welcome. Thank you. Good morning. Do you want music, or how do you like listening to the birds? I didn't really do my hair. I apologize. It's kind of messy. Yeah, that's the way I had it thrown when I took a shower, so. No. No. Hey, Squirry. What the heck do you have in your mouth? What the heck? That squirrel is carrying. Looks like he has something strapped to its neck. Dude. There's a squirrel that went down the west side. Down by the line there. It looks like he has something strapped around his neck. I don't know. Alright, we were on page 26 or 27? 26? You know what, I'll just start chapter 2 over, yeah? Oh no, I was further into the chapter than I thought. Alright, yeah, we're on page 26, right? Yeah? One says 26, one says 27. I'm going to go with 26 just to be safe. I don't mind reading things over. Yeah, the Covenant and the Kingdom. Oh gosh. 67. 53. I can't remember. 68. Ah, so close. Okay, it is by no means certain that all of the tribes entered Palestine at the same time, nor even that all of them had been in Egypt. The letters from the Canaanite kings to Egypt show that infiltration of nomadic groups
from the semi-desert areas was a constant problem, and clearly this is part of the same pattern of movement which T.E. Lawrence found still operating amongst the Arab tribes 50 years ago, and which he called the circulation which kept vigor in the Semitic body. He called it the circulation which kept vigor in the Semitic body. It's an understatement.
Speaking of the undertow.
Oh man. It was formed by the attraction of permanent pasturage and dependable crops, and the pressure from the nomadic peoples, which forced the weaker peasant groups off their land and out into the desert to become nomads in their turn. There were few, if indeed there was a single northern Semite whose ancestors had, at some dark age, passed through the desert. The mark of nomadism, the most deep and biting social discipline, was on each of them in this degree. Against this background, the vital factor is not that the tribes should all have entered Palestine at the same time, nor even that they should all have shared in the Exodus experience. It lies in their recognition that they had things in common which distinguished them sharply from Canaanites. The belief that they were related to each other by a common ancestry, the semi-nomadic life which had left such a deep mark on their social institutions and their personal relations, and the worship of Yahweh, an examination of the groups of Hebrew people involved in the events of the book of Judges suggests, in fact, that only the northern group was involved in the Exodus experience and the entry into Palestine across the Jordan after the journey through the wilderness. It seems probable that the people of Judea and Simeon were already settled in the south, separated from the northern group by the central group of Canaanite cities, including Jerusalem, but they would have sufficient in common with the northern tribes to accept their experience as their own, and the new understanding of the power and love of their God, Yahweh, has a fact which they also wish to share. The basic pattern of Hebrew life took its shape from the needs of comparatively small groups of people whose lives depended on carefully organized movement to ensure that their flocks were adequately fed. The extended family forming a clan was the natural unit under the direction of the most senior, capable man in the clan, and all the institutions arose from this basic family pattern. There was a real and fundamental equality between the members of the family. Disputes were settled by the head of the clan, solely as far as we know in the light of consequences of this equality, and without the kind of complex formal legal code based on the authority of royal decree. One of the few fragments of legal code that can be dated with confidence from the times before the entry into Palestine is called the Lex Talionis, Lex Talionis, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, is based fundamentally on this equality, limiting revenge or punishment to the extent of the original injury. This fundamental basis of Hebrew law was retained even after the original society had been radically changed by the rise of the permanent monarchy. And there is a vivid example of this in practice in the famous confrontation of David by the prophet Nathan. Nathan put a case to David, and at the end of it, David gave judgment without hesitation. On earth as it is in heaven. Yeah. David's anger flared up against the man. As Yahweh lives, he said to the nation, he said to Nathan, The man who did this deserves to die. He must make fourfold restitution for the lamb, for doing such a thing and showing no compassion. In any other civilization throughout the history of the Near East, from Hammurabi right through the Roman times, the king would first have had to inquire about the status of the man who had committed the offense, whether he was a noble, a freeman, or a slave. The laws of the sabbatical year and the Jubilee year, when debts were written off and slaves were given their freedom if they wanted it, were intended to guard this equality, however much they might have been ignored in practice. Equality only applied to members of the Hebrew tribes. Of course, the law recognized the enslavement of peoples who were not entitled to be members of the Central Assembly of the tribes. This approach to fellow members of the community was sharply contrasted with the Canaanite social system, where the king of a city and its district was the sole owner of the land. Citizens could only use land by a feudal relationship with the king, and even when a system of wider land ownership developed in the Canaanite cities, the strict social divisions and legal distinction remained. Right, and whatever the responsibilities or special things that were given to someone considered a king. They have special treatments or there's certain responsibilities, like a boss or a manager, chief, sergeant, judge. Right, and so a lot of people, when you read history, and it's not to give any kind of right or wrong in the now, some people seem to get confused and say, oh, okay, so that means this land belongs to so-and-so, or that means the Jews did them wrong, or Catholics, and oh, that means the Chinese, oh, that Canadians, that means we have rights to this, or you did our people wrong. What the fuck do you mean your people? People are so fucking stupid. Right, so yeah, it's not to put any kind of special praise. Doesn't mean you have to send anyone a gift or cut anyone's head off. It's just learning about history for entertainment purposes. Wow, I know, people are insane, huh? The strength with which the Hebrews defended the right of the individual to own land is well illustrated by the incident of Naboth's vineyard, 350 years after the entry into Palestine. Ahab, king of the northern kingdom, Israel, wanted a piece of land to extend his palace gardens and was refused by the owner. Ahab said to Naboth, "Give me your vineyard to be my vegetable garden, since it adjoins my house. I will give you a better vineyard for it. If you prefer, I will give you its worth in money." But Naboth answered Ahab, "Yahweh forbid that I should give you the inheritance of my ancestors." Ahab's wife Jezebel had, right, so I mean he's abiding by Yahweh forbid that I should give you the inheritance of my ancestors. And the Lord said, "Be true to thy father and mother, honor." Well, what if your father is Marilyn Manson? Well, you're going to be true to and honor him by locking his ass up or giving him the electric chair or something, right? Right, so that's called honoring all fathers and ancestors, or whatever you want to put to that. Yahweh forbid that I should give you the inheritance of my ancestors. Well, maybe Yahweh didn't know that it would do you good. Do I take a bite of the apple, or I don't know. I'm just trying to figure this out. Right. I mean, it's really simple stuff to understand, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Some people get caught up with the attachments, and I think it's just like anything else. When you look at those who really make a big stink and drama out of those things, just like any other symptom or event, ghosts, aliens, God, a listening device, remote viewing. It's brain frequencies. It's just really in tune, clairvoyant. Yeah, right. That doesn't exist. They got a device in here. Right. I mean, enough people, I think, have had experiences enough to understand that obviously there's something above and beyond your little handheld devices, and something above and beyond that as well. Right. I mean, a calculator can far surpass human capabilities or intelligence. Right. When you start to understand it, I can calculate it faster. Can I have compassion? I mean, it's not going to pause if I'm putting in a calculation and then all of a sudden the phone rings. I go, oh, there's a phone call. Oh, kids screaming. What happened? Right. I mean, can it have? Right, and then does it even care? Oh, little brat probably deserved it. Does someone want to see if the child's okay? You know what? I'll check myself. Hold on. Mind your business. Holy shit. Right, so I mean, whatever it is, right? These are really easy things to understand, and people don't seem to like to have these basic kind of unifying conversations. They want to just throw fuel and drama and profit from drugs, drama, and dogs. Right, so hopefully the proper authorities do what they're supposed to do to help these kids. We're doing all we can as a fucking loser, retard, Nazi, someone that's been targeted and killed by these punks who's witnessed them beat up little kids. Yeah, and they want to act like it's all in my head. Little brat probably deserved it. It was just a whack. Oh, yay. Right, when you realize what the fuck we're dealing with, and when I told them they weren't going to get away with it, and the dog's leg blew up and I lost use of my arm for 3 months, and they vaccinated my youngest 2 children behind my back because I'm a dangerous mother and going to kill people for not vaccinating. Right, people need to wake the fuck up and help these kids. Enough is enough. You fucking psychos. Anyways, Ahab's wife Jezebel and Naboth murdered. So Ahab's wife Jezebel had Naboth murdered so that her husband could obtain his land. And Elijah prophesied the end of Ahab's dynasty as a punishment for the crime. This guarding of the rights of the individual to his land and its roots in the family is also shown by the law, which gave other members of the family the first option if land was put up for sale. And the purchase of a poor man's land by the rich was one of the evils repeatedly condemned by the prophets, for the practice eroded one of the main foundations of equality and independence in the society. I had to refill my water in a second and read a little bit more. After the Hebrews took to the city life, the law continued to be administered by the heads of the families living in the city. The elders at the gate, the direct continuation of the practice of the nomadic tribe, the only legal authority above these local lay magistrates, who, it is to be noticed, were not appointed by anyone. They merely exercised a natural right arising directly from their status as head of a family. The only superior authority was the solitary judge, whose successive names are listed in Judges 10:1-5 and 12:7 through 15. These are to be distinguished from the major judges of the period, military leaders who arose to deal with a particular military crisis. The minor judges have no military function. There is no information about how they were chosen, and their function was probably connected with the divine law of the covenant, the law which concerned the people as a whole, rather than the local law of the individual communities. The local law was administered in the most public place possible, the open space immediately inside the city gate, and the guarantee of its fairness and consistency was that its administration was witnessed by any of the citizens who cared to watch. One of the new developments was emerged with the monarchy was the practice of taking cases to the king to be heard, and the appointment of deputies by the king to administer justice. Whenever a man with some lawsuit had to come before the king's court, Absalom would call out to him and ask, "What town are you from?" He would answer, "Your servant is from one of the tribes of Israel." The Absalom would say, "Look, your case is sound and just, but there is not one deputy of the king's who will listen to you." Yeah, when we told you certain ones of them would disappear or commit suicide when a round of them was hitting their teenagers. Yeah, we told you that. Yeah, we told you that over 10 years ago. And we've seen it happen through like 5 cycles since then, and this is another one. So I could really care less. The people here need to wake the fuck up, or not. And if they don't want to, we should have proper authorities in place that can bypass the stupid fucking immature citizens with their nasty fucking addictions and childish beliefs and help the fucking kids in the hands of sick murderous pedophiles, right? I mean, that's what we have those systems in play for, right? Not to help the fucking crimes and the sick fucking abuse, right? Yeah, I sure hope so. So anyways, I really, really, really hope the proper authorities here in Augusta, Maine do what they're supposed to do, because they got 3 counties they're going to take out, totally fucking vaporized. The people will be ashes. And then hopefully, I mean, they don't want to do it. Hopefully, anyone, wherever you are, speak the fuck up about the injured children, the child and animal pornography, the punks we have right here, we've pointed them out to you, who tried to kill us, the vaccine-injured children, and the concerns with SSRIs and vaccines. It's very simple. You can prevent your community from being vaporized if you're one of the chosen few. Right, and then if you still don't want to wake up and continue to watch people be vaporized and beaten and tortured, as opposed to speaking up about the facts, they'll do 3 more. Okay, and we'll just keep doing that until people want to wake the fuck up and get real. You sick, nasty fucking cunts. All right, we're going to pause on page 30. Much love, health, and peace, everybody. Hey, you can't make people do the right thing, but you can hope and pray, you know? And like his promise is true, only my faith can